So today is the 19th of January 2020. My name is Sharena Gulzar, and I'll be interviewing you today on behalf of the Centre for Indian Classical Dance as part of the Poshak Puralekh project. Thank you for coming. Just a little bit of background about Poshak Puralekh. It is a costume archive project looking at the history and heritage of the costumes collected by Nilima Devi MBE since 1981 as part of our organisation. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Gita, Lakhlani. I believe Nilima Devi might have already told you that I am one of her oldest students. That makes me feel very old. But yes, 1980, what did you say?
81?
81. Well, I've known her since then. So that's a very long time.
And how have you been associated with CICD over the years?
I first heard Didi on the radio, on Leicester Radio, and at that time I'd just come home after my studies, and I was looking to do something creative, and I particularly enjoyed dance. I always danced as a young girl, and she was on Radio Leicester, and she announced that she was starting classical Indian dance classes called Kathak. Well, did I know what Kathak meant? Nothing. No, I didn't know, but I rang her straight away. And I attended her class together with other people who were still with me, really. If not in physically, certainly in my memory. We started our class together.
Lovely. Sounds like you've had some very good memories there.
We stayed together through a very interesting period of time in Leicester, in the cultural development of Leicester in terms of the Asian community there. We were newly arrived, as it was, and the culture hadn't quite established itself. So I believe that with Didi, we were all a part of that historical moment.
And just a little bit about yourself. Where were you born, and what is your background in terms of where you arrived from?
I was born in East Africa, in Kenya, in Nairobi. We lived there until there was political turbulence in the countries around, and we thought it would come to Kenya as well. So we then migrated, and I was about age 11 when I first came to England, and grew up in Leicester. And like I said, eventually met up with Didi, and the rest is history.
Just one more question about your background. So how do you feel that the heritage you brought back with you from East Africa helped you develop the culture in Leicester when you moved into the UK?
We already were a very strongly identified Indian community in Kenya itself. Navratri festivals were celebrated every year. At school, I was always a part of productions of dances, and I remember my uncle was thrilled to see me in an Indian folk outfit. I've got photos somewhere, I don't know where, but yeah, so that was my love of folk art, and I was pretty good at it.
Brilliant. And in terms of the costumes at CICD, you said you've been involved for many, many, many years. Could you tell me about a costume or production you were particularly involved in and has significant importance to you?
Well, it was the Ugly Duckling because, as I said, we all worked very closely together. We did quite a lot of the choreography together with Didi. We thought up of designs and so on and so forth. And I took on the task of designing the Ugly Duckling and Swan costumes, which I'm so pleased Didi let me take that. It was a mammoth task to take on because there were about 6 to 8 dancers that we had to fit up and make the dresses for. So yes, I was involved in that, and I took my inspiration from nature. The Ugly Duckling being ugly, I just thought greys would be a good idea, soft greys, not very eye-catching, but beautiful at the same time because it was for a classical production. It was more ballet, and so it needed to be elegant, but at the same time it needed to convey the message of what the dance was about, what the story was about, which was the ugliness of the duckling.
And I understand that you played both the Ugly Duckling and the Swan.
Well, obviously the Ugly Duckling, it's really, It actually is a metamorphosis of the soul, the human being becoming the soul. That's my understanding of that story. And so the ordinary being is drab, is dull, and suddenly becomes animated as the soul, which is the swan. But the swan is depicted in many Vedanta traditions to depict the higher self. So that's what it was really about.
Fantastic. And do you recall how you felt at the time, shifting from the ugly duckling, the alter ego there, into the character of the beautiful swan?
Obviously, it was amazing not to be the ugly duckling. However, the trials and tribulations of the duckling itself were just as important, in that as one journeys through life, you come across many levels of suffering, and that's what was depicted there. And then to finally be liberated into that ultimate self is what it was about. And somewhere intuitively I got that. So that was the essence of all the swans coming together, to be in union, to dance in unison, because the whole choreography was about dancing together in as one form, as it were.
As one form, as one unit.
As one unit, but it is, the soul isn't, there's Param Atma. So, all the Atmas are the one. That's what it symbolized. And so the choreography of dancing together, being so, how shall I put it, regular, every movement was matched by the other. That's what it was depicting on stage.
And could you explain, in terms of, you mentioned about Param Atma, how you would define that in modern society?
That's a very deep question. Well, the Atma needs to know Paramatma. So it's everybody's individual journey. We're all multifaceted. It's Atma, the Paramatma has split into multiplicity of souls. And currently there is a movement of awakening in the world. So many of us are becoming awake to that one self.
Thank you so much. Thank you. One last question. What do you feel is the significance of the costumes within South Asian communities in Leicester and around the UK?
I think costumes represent not only the aesthetic beauty of a dancer's performance, it enhances the dance itself. So if you've got something too cumbersome and getting in the way, it's not going to convey the right message of the essence of the dance. So it's very important how we select our costumes. Costumes also carry with it the language of culture, the language of the root of that dance. However, having said that, those barriers can also be dissolved depending on the story you're trying to tell.
Thank you so much for your time, Gita ji. It's been lovely talking to you today.
Nice to talk to you.